Multi-million dollar lawsuits, false accusations, broken friendships, absolute narcissism, and tying it all together, ironically enough, a movie called It Ends With Us. The Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni situation is just weird. So unless you're living in a rather peaceful bubble and in the dark when it comes to Hollywood's never-ending list of lawsuits and dirty allegations, I'm here to ruin your peace. Sorry guys. Because this, ladies and gentlemen, needs attention. It's not just one more lawsuit filed by another one of Hollywood's ultra-rich, greedy assholes trying to milk and extort people for even more money in the name of justice. No, this lawsuit was a power move rather, an attempt to establish dominance and girl boss their way into a state of superstardom while simultaneously appearing as a helpless victim. But let's be honest, Lively isn't nearly talented enough to pull off that act. Few people are in Hollywood. On the 9th of August 2024 came out the movie It Ends With Us starring Hollywood A-lister Blake Lively and relatively unknown actors Justin Baldoni, who also directed this movie, and Brandon Sklenar. Based on a novel by the same name, a movie about domestic abuse, past traumas, and the importance of forgiveness and moving on. And guess what? It was a pretty good one. Not an Academy Award level film by any stretch of the imagination. That statement holds absolutely no merit anymore, does it? But as I was saying, a decent one-time watch in its own right with some good performances. Plus, it was a massive financial success, grossing a humongous $350 million worldwide against an extremely moderate budget of $25 million. Moderate compared only to other juggernauts that are made on north of 200, sometimes $300 million that barely break even. But the real entertainment came afterwards. Isn't that what Hollywood's culture is now? Taint to entertain. Mudslinging has now become mainstream and apparently quite profitable as of late, and Lively took full advantage of it. On December 2024, just a few weeks after the theatrical run of the film had ended, Lively filed a complaint against Baldoni and producer Jamie Heath with the California Civil Rights Department for sexual misconduct and harassment on the sets of It Ends With Us. And mind you, civil rights complaints are not public records, so the whole leak had to have been intentional. And as if on cue, William Morris Endeavor Group, the talent agency who had all three, Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, and Justin Baldoni as their clients, dropped Baldoni. Even the author of the original novel, Colleen Hoover, came out in support of Lively and issued a statement via Instagram where she didn't exactly say anything against Baldoni, but she made her stance clear. She was with Lively. The age-old typical response by most people in the entertainment business when any woman accuses any man of sexual misconduct. Mind you, these were just allegations at this point. Legally speaking, they still are. Whereas the truth is pretty mind-blowing. But just based off of these allegations, Baldoni was suddenly a pariah, an outcast of sorts, and all eyes were on Lively. A few people even called it the second coming of the Me Too movement. Actually, it was. Except for Baldoni. The full story about what happened during the production of the film goes completely against the whole image that Reynolds and Lively have carefully curated over the years. They've tried to be this cute Hollywood couple who are friendly, loving, and just, like you and me, except when the cameras are not rolling. So before the filming began and after the casting of Lively as the lead protagonist and as an executive producer was confirmed, A-listers are often given the credit, so that's not news. But what happened afterwards was that Lively started to assert more and more dominance and started taking control little by not just Baldoni, but every aspect of the production. She got her own costume guy who she worked with in Gossip Girls to make sure that she's in charge. Apparently, she would send hundreds of images to the costume department in order to let them know what her vision for the character of Lily Bloom was. And when her vision was rejected or questioned, since she contractually had zero power in these departments, she would pull the classic my way or highway card by threatening to walk out of the project. And not just that, apparently she also demanded to have all of the costumes sent over to her house for trials, instead of going to the production office, which was just a few miles away. And after these stunts came the big guns. A scene in the film required Baldoni to lift Lively up in his arms, but since Baldoni has had bulging discs in his back for his own well-being, Baldoni apparently asked her what her weight was, for which Lively felt quote-unquote fat-shamed. These words have become so cheap as of late. Anyone with a Twitter account and their mothers are throwing them around as if it's a joke. Asking a random woman her weight in public to slander her is definitely wrong, but what Baldoni did does not seem inappropriate at all. And as retaliation, Reynolds stepped in and pressured Baldoni to come up to their penthouse, where Reynolds firmly condemned Baldoni's actions, which honestly is just a toned down way of saying he intimidated Baldoni. Reynolds and Lively are top tier in Hollywood on top of being insanely rich. A relatively unknown guy like Baldoni would have had no chance of fighting them, especially when they're holding a film that he's directing and producing hostage. Recasting would have cost them millions and months, which they did not have, so Baldoni did the only thing he could: apologized and gave Lively even more creative control. Lively slowly and steadily dug her fingers into every aspect of the film to shape the film in her own way, and let me remind you again, Lively had no contractual power. It was all just bullying and unfair use of their status and the helplessness of the producers. She brought in her own guys to rewrite some of the lines, one of who was Ryan Reynolds himself. She also demanded that the producers hired an intimacy coordinator who ironically she didn't even coordinate with. And she even brought in an editor who Reynolds worked with on Deadpool and Wolverine. Do you see? She wanted it to be all about herself. She also tried to leverage her buddy Taylor Swift's song being present in the film, like anyone cares about it. Her initial threat of painting Baldoni as a body-shaming asshole paved the way for Lively to have unchecked power, which she started abusing more and more, to the point where she made her own cut of the film with her editor and demanded that her cut is the one that's released in the theaters. And when faced with backlash by the producers and Baldoni, she came to an agreement where they screen both versions to test audiences, and whichever version receives more positive votes will be the one that's released in theaters. And even though Baldoni's version got the thumbs up, she still tried to have her way. And when that didn't work, she pulled the ultimate low blow by demanding that Baldoni is removed from promotions and even the poster of the film, and is banned at the premiere of the movie. And if that didn't happen, she threatened to pull out of the promotions herself. The only person that should have pulled out was her dad. Baldoni wasn't just acting in the movie, he was one of the producers, the director, and the screenplay writer. And asking for him to be outright banned by the very premiere of the film, well, you gotta ask how much bullying is too much bullying. And even that demand was met in some capacity. She settled to let Baldoni appear on the conditions that he leaves when she arrives, and that he has a separate screen for his friends and family. It apparently got so bad at one point that they made Baldoni and his family wait in the basement for an hour when Lord Lively arrived, so that he doesn't upset the princess by his unsettling presence. The film premiered and then it was released and became a huge commercial success. It was a sort of a win-win situation for everyone. Both Baldoni and Lively made bank, and after that harrowing but financially profitable experience, they never had to come face to face again. Any sane person would have let everything go and just bask in the glory of the success of the film. But Lively just couldn't. It's now clear that it was textbook narcissism on Lively's part, but she wasn't done exploiting Baldoni and Heath, and the complaint and the entailing lawsuit was filed in an attempt to legally blackmail and extort even more money, where she alleged that both Justin Baldoni and Jamie Heath quote-unquote harassed her sexually. She claimed in a complaint that Baldoni would add improv kissing scenes and would enter her vanity van without permission multiple times while she was breastfeeding and having her body makeup removed. She even accused Jamie Heath of peeping on her when she explicitly asked him to keep his back turned while she was topless. She also alleged that Heath showed her an inappropriate video and continually spoke of personal sexual experiences which traumatized her. The immediate response by Baldoni and Jamie Heath, they hired crisis management PR executives and issued statements where they vehemently denied the allegations and promised to bring the truth out real soon, and they did. Turns out, there's actual footage of the scene where Lively looks perfectly comfortable and absolutely nothing seems to be out of place or inappropriate. Also, there are text messages that Baldoni has made public where Lively herself has invited Baldoni and Heath to her vanity van to further discuss the scenes in her own trailer. There's also messages where she claims to be the quote-unquote Khaleesi and has referred to Ryan Reynolds and Taylor Swift as her dragons. Hollywood and its delusions. But Baldoni making this evidence public completely flipped Lively's smear campaign on its head. Public perception changed overnight and suddenly Lively was the villain, and deservedly so. It's clear as day now that Blake Lively tried to manipulate the people by trying to act as an innocent victim of the predatory men around her, all in an attempt to slander Baldoni's name for standing in her way of absolute control and to extort a boatload of cash from the producers after the movie made hundreds of millions of dollars. If she was really that bothered by his behavior, why did she and Reynolds wait till December to file the complaint? And that creepy skit between Reynolds and Sklenar?
Oh, God. School. It's not every day the husband gets to interview his wife's love interest in a film. It's kind of crazy.
I don't remember seeing this on the schedule.
Let's dive in, shall we?
But that was apparently supposed to be funny, but all it turned out to be was really uncomfortable to watch. And this wasn't even the first time Lively has done something narcissistic. She's been known to be derogatory and difficult to work with for years now. I think people turned a blind eye to her behavior because it was still within reason. But this, it was the straw that broke the camel's back. And in the fallout of the stunts pulled by Lively and Reynolds, Baldoni is suing them for every penny they have, because there's now a $400 million lawsuit filed against them. Taylor Swift has seemingly distanced herself from Lively and Reynolds. She's a real friend, isn't she? And people now see them to be exactly who they are. Greedy, power-hungry liars who would stop at nothing to consolidate maximum power and wealth at the expense of absolutely anyone. Well, let's see if justice prevails, because if it does, Lively is finished and she'll be the new Amber Heard, and I can't say that's a bad thing in any way. That's it, people. I'm gonna go eat some sushi.